Welcome to the Electronics Inside, the show where we tear down toys, tools and appliances just to find out what's inside. I'm your host, Clem, and
Whoa. What are you doing here? That's not your show, this is my show. It's always nice to be on the phone with Clem, and it's funny that actually Clem's the only other VCP that I've met in person.
Yeah, that's really funny. We should do that again.
But as ever, Clem has once again hooked me up with possibly the best, and I saw this as a fantastic opportunity to see something really old, piece of electronics equipment to tear down.
You would think this is a mechanical adding machine, like a calculator, but it's not. This is an accounting machine.
Very nice it is too. I mean, to be honest, the only frame of reference I really have for anything like this is, do you know The Mask, the film from the 90s with Jim Carrey in it?
Yeah, sure.
And there's one of the skits where he's sort of doing the big cranking machine and that bit of paper's flying out the end.
Okay. You've got 17.5% in T-bills amortized over the fiscal year.
That is an accounting machine, but that's one that's driven with a crank. And the one you have is like a more advanced one that has a motor. So it's electric.
Well, yeah, but the trouble is, I don't think either of us has any real idea of how electric or electronic it really is, beyond the fact it's got a big motor that sticks out the back.
The only thing I could find out about this is like it was made somewhere between 1933 and 1938 in Germany. And up until the 1960s or so, accountants were trained on such devices. And they are meant for accounting, so they have like registers and like memory of some sort. But you would like print it out to recall it. And it's like really complicated and it's not easy to use. But that is like the closest thing you would get between like a typewriter and a computer.
The machine itself is absolutely stunning and it truly belongs in a museum, and it's a bit gummy at the moment, and although it came in the post from where you are very, very well done for packing that quite as well as you did, I'm not sure that it is strictly in working condition. With that said, I would love to be able to clean up some of the mechanical parts that are a bit jammy and a bit gummy, and hopefully we'll get the motor running and we'll see what else is inside that might need a bit of love and see if we can get it working again.
I wouldn't expect it to run on standard voltages because the machine is so old, and from a region before there were like standardized voltages. So it could be that like the plug is not, it looks like the normal one, but it's not. It's a little bit different. So be careful.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to be able to fit that into a UK socket. I can tell you that much straight away.
Yeah, it's like a predecessor to the standard European plug.
It has got earth terminals, so that's got to be a good sign.
So I bet it has earth terminals. It's a big piece of metal. It should have earth.
So, with that, I mean, I think this is a little bit of a blessing and a little bit of a curse, because it seemed really exciting when Clem first told me about it. And then I got it here and looked at it and just went, this is going to be a real challenge. So I think the only thing to do is to start, and this could take a very long time. So I hope you haven't got any plans, Clem.
Well, it's in the middle of the night here, so let's get it on.
Right, now the first thing is the ribbon. Let's clear that out of the way. So this does work like a typewriter. It's an impact printer, just like the dot matrix printer we saw. And this particular ribbon has been spliced. With the help of somebody in my house, we unspooled it far enough that we could see that the black ribbon that has the ink impregnated in it has been spliced together with a red and black one. Now, there's nothing obviously on this machine that would help that I can see that would shift between the red and the black. And I'm not sure whether that would be shifting the ribbon up and down, or whether that would be shifting the impact heads up and down to give you red and black. But the ability to do red and black makes absolute sense for an accounting point of view, because you don't want to fall into the red, you always want to be in the black.
Oh, interesting detail, you can still get those ribbons.
You can. I mean, like we said in the dot matrix printer teardown, I mean, it's funny that people still have to use them because some companies only accept impact carbon copy duplicates or chemical duplicates with individual signatures on them rather than 2 printed copies, which is absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, I worked in a laboratory once, and we had to do that to make sure that nobody could manipulate what you have been finding out. So still applications for that one.
Now, the other strange thing about this machine, as in uniquely to this one, I mean, I've tried to research and look this up on the internet, and a lot of the other ones only had the paper handling mechanism for the width of a receipt, so it was pretty much the same width as the machine itself. Now, I can't work out if this was a special order or whether it was actually customized, but this has now got a full 80 column width page.
So I've researched the thing a bit to find out it's an accounting machine, and I found a catalog page for that particular series of machines, and they were made for A4 sheets of paper, but you could also put in all the smaller sizes and all the endless paper. And a lot of people would use, they would have special accounting sheets that had pre-printed stuff on them and use those with this machine. So depending on what kind of business you use, that's what you do. And there were punch tape readers and input-output things, so you can automate stuff. So basically one accountant does accounting and the other one gets the punch tape, and then all the other machines make copies.
That would be very cool. That would be amazing to get hold of one of those. But it makes sense that you would want to print out an invoice based on the accounting machine, but onto a headed page. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, just printing out this sort of receipt width paper, it's well and good, but just makes less useful sense to me. That sort of gives you an idea of where this machine may have been used in sort of that slightly more commercial, properly invoiced and managed rather than a local shop kind of environment. So to get this open, this big case here is definitely the thing we're going to have to get off first. But I don't really know how, because it's the only screws and fixings I can see are underneath here. So I guess we have to take the paper handling mechanism off.
I think it's like with some typewriters where you can get the carriage off first and then lift the other stuff.
Round the back, we've got these little sort of stops to adjust the maximum carriage travel. And I wonder if I'll... But that stops there, but what I can't see is what's stopping maybe the other way. I mean, I feel like, again, that's a bit of a Hollywood trope where you press the return key and the whole carriage shoots right off.
And that is why it's still called carriage return when you program stuff to be printed on screen.
Line break, carriage return. I wonder if I should be taking some of the screws out of here and then maybe throw the carriage right to the other side and take the other side off. Oh, there you go. Some of the ribbon handling equipment, there we go.
Oh, yeah, that looks promising.
And there is the whole carriage assembly, which definitely doesn't have any electronics in it because you've just got the sheer mechanical interactions with whatever paper source you've got in there. And I just love the fact that this artifact shows us why, when computers really entered the industry in the 1970s and 80s, they went for 80 characters, 80 columns and a screen, because that's what fixed width type fonts were using for generations before that.
Oh, I'm also pretty sure that there is a version of that, or like a similar machine that shares a lot of parts with it, that is a teletype.
Oh, so, cool. That would be very cool to see a teletype version of this. Right, here we go, the big, I thought there was going to be the big reveal, but I've got to take off the hashtag button and the plus.
The pound sign?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it the pound sign? Is it the hashtag? What's the real name of that button anyway?
Well, do you know, I only recently found out. Do you know why it's called a pound sign sometimes?
Because it was used for pounds?
No, because early ASCII incarnations were a bit fluid for a few years, and some keyboards basically had used different ASCII configurations, and the hash and the pound, literally the GB sterling monetary sign, often got switched around.
Oh.
So there you go. That's why hash is sometimes pound. I had misjudged the level of mechanical engineering that may go into this. Honestly, it looks like the gearbox that this motor drives could drive a car.
Maybe it could drive a car. Maybe it came from a car.
Jeez. I mean, it's only a 24-watt motor, but let me spin it around for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, this is a piece of machinery.
I would also advise to wash your hands afterwards.
I will probably be stopping to wash my hands several times in between, too.
Yeah. It's the era of Bakelite and Klingerit and all the stuff that had like nasty components in them.
I'm sure this is proper naturally occurring oils, or naturally made oils, like refined from coal oil or something.
That's the stuff they replaced with asbestos to be more ecologically friendly.
So I've definitely got wires inside the case, but I can't yet tell where they go. So I'm very carefully going to tip this over, probably drain a load of oil out, see if we can remove the cable, which goes up to the front of the motor, because I think we actually, this internal component here, looks like it could be a very, very old capacitor paired up with the motor.
Ooh, interesting.
Possibly. I mean, this is a universal motor, a brushed motor, so this would work with AC or DC.
Do you think what I think?
What's that?
When it works with DC, you can just use your lab power supply and like crank it up a little bit.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I would definitely feel a lot safer plugging this in with the lab supply than plugging this into the mains to turn it on. But to do that, I'd also want to get this motor as free moving as I can, because this is going to be a torquey little thing.
Yeah, you should really clean it if there are like metal shavings or something in there. That wouldn't be good.
Honestly, I'm thinking the 80-year-old grease and oil is probably bad enough. It doesn't need the help of shavings. I mean, on the side of this sort of big, I'm assuming it's a worm-driven gearbox, it says 19377. So do you think that's 1937 July?
That could be it, because like in the catalog, the machine must have been from somewhere between 1933 and 1938.
Okay, so this.
So it should be in there. A lot of versions for that period, and I think the motor-driven ones were like just adaptations of the previous ones. So I would tend to put it later. So 1937 would make sense.
Okay, the motor is now loose, and it's got, oh look, it's got like a little I forget what the name is. It's like a rubber mating between two pin-driven axes to prevent the torque from ripping either axle apart.
Oh, a slip clutch.
Not quite a clutch. Is it a Lovelace interface? Something like that? I think you see them on like electronic cars where they just take that initial force, and it's just that. So 2 pins from one side go in there, then on the other side you have 2 pins and go in there, and this is kind of a rubbery felt.
Yeah, they use that. They still use it on model cars. I don't know how it's called.
So that could actually be leather. It's very shiny on one side and it's got a rough quality on the other. That could be leather.
It could be leather.
That's crazy. So here we go. Let's get this electronic component out, which, like I say, I'm erring on the side of this is probably a really old capacitor.
Oh, it could be like one of those that is made with like oily sheets of paper and foil in between.
I'll be honest, it's looking like it's got wax leaking out the end of it. This is 0.1 microfarad, plus minus 2%, 250 volts. And yeah, honestly, the stuff leaking out of it looks like wax, and it does just look like wound paper.
Oh, then it's a paper and foil capacitor. Yeah.
There you go. How does that look?
Yeah, that's... Can you show it to me from the side, where the leads go out? Oh yeah, that looks... I think that's a paper and foil capacitor.
It's this bit dripping out the side down one of the leads that's just... Yeah, I mean, it's not going to ruin your PCB like electrolytes, but it's clear that leaking caps has always been an issue. Let's get this last terminal out and we can get the motor. But what's really puzzling me is just how much more wiring there is in here, despite there appearing to be nothing else that's electronic. And what I'm figuring is that this is the calculation, the mechanical calculation is all purely mechanical. The only thing, you've got kind of almost like a bistable latch type deal going on where you press calculate and it will run the motor until the motor or something gets to an end switch and then stops it again. That's kind of what I'm imagining.
Yeah, so the other cables might be some end switches or some like status indicators.
Exactly, that's where I'm thinking this is going. Okay, so there's the motor out with that probably leather washer. I mean, it definitely smells like oiled leather.
And the capacitor, it was just connected to the motor?
It was connected across the motor.
Okay, so it's like for motor noise.
Yes, almost certainly.
It's like a really nice looking motor.
It is a beautiful little motor. And actually, I really want to take the motor apart because it looks like it's got, I don't know, there's something in the end of it. I'm almost tempted to say it's got like a centrifugal clutch or something, because it's got what look like weights or anvils and springs inside. We might have to take the motor out the case. Do you know what I'm wondering now? Because with that motor removed, I've got access to the axle on the input of the gear shaft, to the gearbox. I'm wondering if I can like drive that with a drill or something.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. And you can see how the stuff moves.
This is so sketchy. I'm assuming that I've got a row of digits across the bottom, and that's going to represent one number with 2 decimal places up to 99 million?
I'm like not sure on this because I haven't been trained on that machine, but somebody who used such machines told me every row is like one of the digits and you enter one operand, then the operation mode that you do, and then the other number, and then you hit add. And basically, it works like some newer adding machines that I used on the job where when you want to do a minus operation, you actually do this thing minus that thing plus. And it's like similar. So you do like, I want a division, this thing divided by this thing, and then plus. And that's it. And then it does like, instead of like multiplying, it does more multiple additions.
Okay, so because I reckon this is going to spin pretty fast, if I hold down, okay, that was clear, and if I go 1000, so you then think that would trigger it to move?
No, I think the movement is always on the add button, the big one.
So if I did 1000. Oh, pressing the plus just reset the clear button, which...
Yeah, because you can't clear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Plus.
Okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but I've raised the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th digit is raised up, so it's going to print a 1 instead of 0. Presumably, and it looks like it's trying to print 2 zeros after it, so it looks like it would be trying to print 100.
It's incredible how much, like, imagine how expensive this thing must have been to produce and to buy, and how much worth you were getting by just like adding numbers to justify all that.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the design of this thing, just to process a mechanical design that was this functional must have been immense. Then to machine it and manufacture it to that level of reliability, this would not have been a cheap piece of kit. Yet, I think complaining about $1,000, €1,000 for a smartphone, in comparison seems cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like that thing, like if you put like what wages were back then and how much money was worth, like that's not €1,000 machine, that's like a 10K machine at least.
There you go.
So it is an electronic end switch for the thing.
And it's weird. It's just like a nut with a bolt holding a ring lug on it, which literally is on a lever arm that just comes out away from the other contact. And both sides are covered in oil, so how they're still making continuity, I have no idea.
Maybe the grease is conductive.
Which worries the life out of me. I just had a moment of panic. I found these two little metal shaped bits that look like shims. And I was like, oh no, where have they fallen out of? Where did they come out of that I didn't notice? This machine's never going to go back together. I don't understand it. They're the tines out the floor cover across. Oh, I've just realised if this seal is holding in like a sump of oil, this could be a disaster for my cutting mat.
Release the shmoo.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was probably sheep's leather.
It's dust bunny.
That's not a dust bunny, that's half an animal.
There's a whole bunny.
My goodness. Yay!
You get it off?
Yes. Oh, good grief. Trying not to lose a finger in this manipulation. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be replacing all the wires before I attempt to run this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the capacitor. Don't forget that one.
And the capacitor. Very true. I can't see any, like, mechanical parts to this. It looks like two windings that are interlaced.
What is that now? Is that the relay thing?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, the windings on here don't look all that clever.
Does it look like hand wound or machine wound?
Trouble is, it looks wonderful. It's tough to tell, to be honest. It's so nicely done.
Yeah, then it's hand wound.
That is hand wound. It's very nicely done, but that is definitely hand wound.
Yeah.
And then this is the mechanism on the end that I was trying to describe earlier. That was either.
Like that looks like a clutch that extends.
Yeah, it does look like a centrifugal clutch. I mean, definitely. Well, it's very, very hard to make any movement on it. But as you would spin the motor, these weights would be centrifugally spun outwards, and they would press on the outside of the case. So I think this is like a speed limiter, like a governor. If you had a higher voltage in your region for whatever particular reason, you would potentially see higher revolutions, and it might mess with the mechanical calculator. And actually, this is the motor housing that was on the output end of the shaft, and you can just see inside where that must have brushed and rubbed. It's like polished the inside of it. Having taken apart this amazing accounting machine and found that the electronics in it were a capacitor. Can we call it a capacitor? Is the only electronic part, the rest are electrical. Is that fair? But this is still a masterpiece of engineering and an absolute part of history that has to be adored. I can't think of a nicer way to say it. Mm-hmm. But thank you so much, Clem, for sending it over. If in the future you find similar things, please don't send them over to me, because this was a pain and it's a mess.
Aww. It's just fun. I can go hunting for like really, really messy stuff.
No, I really appreciate it. I do. Thank you so much. And yeah, if anybody else has any ideas for a teardown, please let us know over at the Element 14 community. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you for the next teardown.
I gotta go. There's another project waiting for me.